All right, you maggots, listen up. Yes, sir! When first you liked, comment, and subscribe to this operation, you were nothing but a ragtag group of rejects and misfits. And you're still a group of ragtag rejects and misfits. But now you're my misfits. So buckle up, Buttercup. Yes, sir! I know many of you are scared. But Sarge, how are we supposed to defeat the Tan Army? Not with an attitude like that, that's for sure. You're gonna have to melt every tan plastic man on sight. Have I made myself clear? Yes, sir! You all come from different backgrounds, but we are working together for one common good, to protect our brothers and sisters. Were you molded yesterday? No, sir! Are you going to just roll over for the Tan Army when it arrives? No, sir! Are you going to go home and cry to Mommy and Daddy if we fight the Gray Army? No, sir! Are you afraid of those no-good blue cowards over at the Blue Army? No, sir! Now get out there and show me what you're made of, other than plastic. Yes, sir.
Army Man is a top-down shooter developed by the 3DO company and released in 1998. You play as plastic protagonist Sarge, and he's usually dead because he got ran over by a tank, shot by a bazooka, ambushed by a squad, stepped on a mine, shot by a tank, melted by a flamethrower, ran over by the caravan he was escorting. Accidental demolition incidents happen all the time too. You could say Army Man is an experience of dying and being yelled at by a guy on the radio until you finally figure out how to beat the mission. But I always imagined it was just a radio yelling at you. No one on the other side. It just made it way more entertaining for me as a kid.
Sarge is dead.
When I was little, I didn't have very many games, so I played the heck out of the games that I did have. I don't remember where Army Man came from. Either I claimed it as my own, by stealing it from my dad, or I saw it in a department store and begged my parents to buy it for me. Either way, I had this game and I played it a lot. I remember struggling to finish the first campaign at all. I think I worked on it for years, to be honest. Them little kid motor skills, I tell ya. I also remember crazy self-imposed goals, like trying to destroy every single tree and fence at basic training. Was there a reason to do that? No. But I thought maybe I could make the whole world flat somehow if I just tried hard enough, and maybe the game developers were watching and they would be so impressed with my diligence that I'd unlock a secret. I was of the age where video games were still magic, and who knows what could happen if you did something in a video game. While replaying Army Men, a lot of those memories came washing back. It's kind of surreal. I remember wondering if Sarge from the CD-ROM Army Men was the same Sarge from the Nintendo 64 game Sarge's Heroes that I played over at my uncle's house. Really quick side tangent here. Do any of you out there have the cool uncle? Because in our family, there was always the cool uncle, who had the latest technology stuff and the latest video games. I'm just curious if this is an actual experience other people have had, or if it's just in our family. Anyway, getting back on topic, there is actually Army Man lore. I haven't deep dived into looking at the Army Man lore, but there have been several games, and even way back here at the beginning, there's a story. And surprisingly, it has nothing to do with Buzz Lightyear or Woody the Cowboy. There are 4 factions of plastic Army Men that we know of: green, tan, blue, and gray. Most of the story we get is from the Army Man opening video, which is basically a callback to World War II newsreels. The reference to World War II newsreels is also made in the intro videos from the Star Wars Clone Wars series. I knew it was a callback, but as a kid, I didn't realize just how closely it actually imitates those old newsreels. Perks of coming back as an adult, I guess. I came across some extra story while browsing through the Army Man files installed on my computer. While perusing the installed files, I found some promotional material for other games I'd never heard of before. There are 2 video files, one for a game called Revenant, the other for a game called Soul Reaver. Can you believe that they put advertisements for other games into the game you bought, even way back then? I decided to have a look at the game manual, and I came across an interesting page of text describing an interaction between Sarge and a private. I'm going to read it out to you, audiobook style. Here is my best LibriVox/Audible imitation for an intro. This is an Atratzu reading. Copyright 2024. All rights reserved. Also, this content has never been aired. YouTube terms and service. Settle down, it's not copywritten. 3DO is out of business. The wind blew cold around the newest member of the squad. He hadn't heard Sarge come up from behind him and nearly jumped out of his green plastic boots when Sarge tapped him on the shoulder.
Jump away from the fire if you're gonna jump, kid,
growled Sarge. A long silence fell between the recruit and the grizzled sergeant. Sounds from the enemy camps in the distance swirled in on the clammy breeze.
I don't like to say it, Sarge,
said the recruit in a shaky voice,
but I'm afraid.
Son,
Sarge said,
anybody who tells you you're not afraid before a battle is either a fool or a liar. You're lucky, kid. You don't know the real meaning of fear.
The kid thought for a long minute, and then said,
It means you're scared, don't it?
You might want to take me a little less literally, Private,
said Sarge.
I always wondered, Sarge,
said the recruit,
what makes the other armies so evil, especially the Tans?
It isn't that they're evil, kid, Sarge said. Just because they want to conquer everybody else and steal everything they have, I think they just don't know any better. It's a tragic flaw in their character that's beyond their control. That's why they're better off being dead. But it isn't just the Tans we're up against, kid, Sarge continued. Although they're the strongest and most aggressive, it's the Greys and Blues, too. The Greys are a bunch of hit-and-run guerrillas. When I was little, my dad used to scare me at night by telling me stories about the Greys. You don't have to like the Greys, but you do gotta respect them. The Blues, on the other hand, are stinking cowards. They make better sneaks than they do soldiers. They're more likely to ambush you than shoot you in open combat. The Tans put up with the Blues because they can use them as couriers, saboteurs, and spies.
There's so many of them, Sarge,
the kid said.
There's 3 armies against our 1. We don't stand a chance, Sarge. We're as good as dead. Dead, I tell you.
They aren't Superman, kid, growled Sarge. They aren't even unbreakable. They melt just like everybody else. Remember, they don't cooperate with each other, at least not for long. It isn't us versus them. It's us versus them, against them, against them.
But Sarge wasn't telling the kid the whole truth. It made him sick to his stomach to lie. The kid sensed Sarge was keeping something back. Something besides the rations that were bouncing around in his gut like a squad of paratroopers landing on trampolines. Sarge couldn't hold it back any longer. There's something more to it than I told you, kid, he continued. We're on a mission to look for something powerful. No one knows exactly what it is. It's some powerful mumbo-jumbo, that's all I really know. And we can't let the Tans get to it first. There's no telling what they'd do. The kid fell into deep contemplation once again.
I think,
he said,
they'd probably do something bad with it.
You're catching on, kid, said Sarge. We'll make a plastic soldier out of you yet.
So there's more to Army Man than simply green versus tan versus blue versus gray. There's also a super weapon to be investigated. Each campaign will get you part of a key to find and unlock this mysterious weapon, to try to discover the weapon before the other armies do. Army Man has 3 campaigns and 9 levels for each campaign, 28 levels in total. The last campaign has 10 levels. Your first stop is the desert, then you'll fight your way through the alpine forests, and lastly you will travel through the bayou to gather all 3 keys and stop the Tan Army from unleashing this new potential super weapon device, and cause who knows how much devastation on the world as we know it.
Sarge is dead.
The controls for this game are kind of weird. By default, movement is handled by the number lock keys instead of WASD. When this game came out, there really wasn't a standardized movement control setup on the scene yet. Some games used WASD, others used arrow keys, and some outliers, like Army Men, used the number keypad instead. You can aim with your mouse, but I recommend keyboard turning for this game. The mouse is a bit unruly, and I don't like it. But occasionally I reach for the mouse controls just to be faster at responding. The problem is you shoot with the spacebar and/or mouse clicking. Again, the controls are going to just be the biggest hurdle if you're going to pick up Army Men. It's completely unchanged from the game I played all those years ago, to its credit and its detriment. Oh, and if you're feeling adventurous, I remember trying to play this game with a flight simulator joystick, for some godforsaken reason I don't understand. So if the controls aren't convoluted enough for you, thankfully the rest of the game is pretty straightforward. Your primary weapon is either a normal rifle or an auto rifle. The auto rifle lets you shoot while moving. You actually shoot slightly faster while moving too. Your secondary weapon can range from grenades, bazookas, flamethrowers, and mortars, each one useful in different circumstances. As a kid, I thought the bazooka was the coolest, but realistically, the mortar is probably the best weapon. But you can save yourself a lot of trouble by burning down a forest with enemies in it. And I've even used a bazooka to evaporate a guy or two. But range weapons are key, and knowing where your enemy is at is the other key that unlocks the door to success while playing Army Men. Your third weapon can be TNT, mines, minesweeper, or a portable heal kit. Getting familiar with all these weapons and utilities is essential to playing Army Men, because you really can't get anywhere without using all of them. Some missions will give you a mortar, and others will give you just grenades. You also have 3, I'll call them auxiliary items on your F keys. Recon to see where every hostile is on the map. Airstrike to ruin someone's day, and also drop a bomb on any location in the map. You should note you don't see the enemies on the map unless they're near you, so you'll want to use a recon before an airstrike. And lastly, my favorite, paratroopers. This allows you to drop troops anywhere on the map. Paratroopers are my favorite because you get a squad of soldiers who you can give basic instructions like, follow me, green defend, and green squad attack.
Green squad, attack! Green squad, defend.
They're pretty brainless as far as AI is concerned, but they're just the distraction you need to make most missions so much easier. I remember as a kid I worked so hard to try to keep every green man alive, even though in the last mission, in a set of missions, they don't carry over or help in any way after that last mission. But I always had a strong sense of camaraderie, even as a kid. Never mind how many times I shot my own teammates in other video games, or ran over my own troops in the basic training mission, or dropped my paratroopers into minefields. You know, as I'm thinking about it, maybe I didn't have a strong sense of camaraderie, but I do have memories of trying to keep all my soldiers alive in the mission. But a big part of that might be to keep as many resources around for the final mission as possible. There are also a few different vehicles. Vehicles have their own health, and sometimes they have weapons on them. The only vehicles of note are the ones with weapons. The tank is the god of this game, basically shooting limited bazooka shots. Next we have the Jeep, which has a mounted gun turret on top of it. As a kid, I hated the Jeep because it was fast and only turns when moving, like cars in real life. But nearly all the rest of the vehicles can spin like a top without moving. But not the Jeep. You gotta move forward or backwards. But watch 'em go! There's also two convoy caravan style vehicles. One has a gun, which has limited forward shooting ability. The other doesn't have a gun, and is only a plastic bullet sponge, serving no other purpose for me. To make matters worse, much like the Jeep, it only turns when moving. Well, that's not entirely true. The most effective weapon all vehicles possess is the ability to flatten any plastic man, like a pancake. I've given you the tools, now it's your turn to use these tools to achieve victory over the tan, blue, and gray armies. So now that we know the different weapons and vehicles, let me give you a few more details about the different types of missions you'll be expected to do, and some difficulties along with them. The first campaign goes by pretty quickly until you're tasked with your first escort mission. It's all an uphill battle from there, I'm afraid. If everyone dies and you live, Sarge, you lost your men, the half-track, and the plastic. HQ out.
Sarge, you lost your men, your half-track, and the plastic. HQ out.
The best advice I can give you to accomplish escort missions in Army Men is, first, take your time. Second, look through the planning map. F12 is the key to view the map with critical information on it. Third, use recon to see where stuff is on the map. Eventually you'll just memorize where stuff is. That's what I did. It's a bit weird for me now because I don't remember why I'm scared of certain levels or afraid of certain parts of the map. I just know I died there a lot, and there's something bad there. I have some kind of light version of childhood video game PTSD or something. Lastly, look around the map for weapons and items which might help you. There's actually a lot of hidden areas and caches of weapons in most levels. But if you're really struggling, you might want to consider going back to the previous mission if you used up all your weaponry. That's happened to me more than a few times. Towards the end of the game, I used up all my ammo and healing items trying to find a dumb blue spy, and the follow-up mission had nothing! So I actually had to restart from the beginning and use my weapons more conservatively and finish the mission relatively easily after that. Relative, because I still died a lot, but it was basically impossible without secondary weapons or my portable health kit. From there, most levels are just slightly different enough to keep it interesting. I'll never forget the mission where you're trying to break some of your men out of a tan prison camp, and they start to bring the men out one at a time and kill them if you take too long to complete the mission, or if you prematurely attack one of the defensive towers. That's something else worthy of note. This game was definitely for kids because, you know, plastic army men. I had them as a kid, loved them. I thought about buying some for the sake of this review and maybe making a thumbnail with them. But there's actually some more mature war themes going on here which were lost on me as a kid. But the yells of the troops when they were melted and the way they melt is kind of graphic. I'm not really making a point saying it's good or bad, just acknowledging that while playing I couldn't help but think, man, they have a prison camp mission where they take your troops out in front of a firing range and kill them right in front of you. That's kind of messed up.
Sarge, one of our guys was just executed. Hurry!
So the big question is, would I recommend playing Army Men? And I answer you, maybe. For the nostalgic, definitely. I was so glad I replayed this game. It was a trip down memory lane. It took me 7.5 hours to complete the campaign. I don't even remember if I beat the campaign as a kid. I know I did get as far as the Bayou, but I think those levels got too tough for me. It's funny, I thought coming back to Army Men as an adult, I might be slightly better at the game. And I am a bit more strategic and can play a little bit better. But on the whole, I feel pretty much just as terrible as I did when I was 10 years old. I got the "Sarge is dead" message more than I care to talk about. Some people might like older games, and for those of you who do, this game is worth picking up. It works exactly how it did when I was a kid. How often can we say that about games? Crazy control schemes and everything. For the more tech-savvy of you, you can mod the game to make it a little bit easier on the eyes and have a better resolution. But I'm not that smart. Hex editors scare me. But for many people with more modern video game tastes, Army Man is a skip. It'll frustrate you, won't make sense, finessing the crosshairs around with light taps on the keyboard to change the angle, which will be the difference between missing your target and hitting your target, will just annoy you. But I like Army Man. I'm glad it's on Steam, and I hope to be back at some point with reviews for the sequels, which I have never played. I want all the comments on this video to be something like, "Outstanding job, Sarge. Please stand by for further orders. Good work. HQ out." Or, "Sarge is dead," or another quote from the angry HQ radio. Please and thank you. I'm Atratzu, and I'll see you in the next review. As always, thank you for watching. HQ out.